Welcome to the Surprise Sock Along 2024, the Color Popportunity Socks. We are going to cast on with Clue 1 using fingering weight sock yarn. If you've never knit socks before, or you're a bit nervous about getting started with this knit along, just say yes, don't stress. We're gonna knit the best socks that we've ever knitted. They're my favorite socks I've ever designed because they bring in that funky West Knits construction with a heavy dose of color opportunities. So you're gonna need a main color of your fingering weight sock yarn, like Walk Collection Tough Sock, and 3 contrast colors. These are 20-gram mini skeins. You're gonna have some leftovers, okay? So get 100 grams of your main color and about 20 grams or so of your contrast color pops. These are about 93 yards or 85 meters for your mini skeins. If you have a little less, it's gonna be okay, all right? There's gonna be some leftovers, but get your main color, 3 contrast colors. It doesn't really matter which order they're in. When in doubt, you could go from light to dark. Contrast color 1, 2, 3, and we're gonna play with all 3 contrast colors this week for Clue 1. And if you're using 1 contrast color, that's okay. So maybe you have one of our kits that had that Zauberball self-striping yarn. You could also use 100 grams for your main color, and then you could use 1 funky variegated or self-striping yarn. You could use 1 contrast color for all 3 contrast colors. So I wrote the pattern for 3 contrast colors like this, but whenever you see contrast color 1, contrast color 2, contrast color 3, you could just use the same contrast color, okay? I give you permission. It's gonna be really fun to mix it up with those self-striping combos as well. Main color, all your contrast colors. Or you might have a fun kit like this. So get something really fun that you love, fingering weight sock yarn, 3 color pops, or 1 self-striping contrast color, and we're gonna play with all these fun color opportunities. Make sure you wind your yarn, and then you're gonna need some needles and notions. So to get started, dive into your needle case, and we're gonna use a few stitch markers throughout the knit along. Probably not this week, but just make sure you've got a few stitch markers handy for later on in the clues. And you can use circular needles for magic loop method. I'm gonna use double pointed needles for knitting DPNs in the round or flat for the sock. This week we're going to be knitting flat. We're not going to be knitting in the round yet this week. Is it going to be a sock? I don't know, stay tuned. So you're going to need some DPNs or some circular needles. Any types of needles work to get started, but use the needles that you like best for your sock knitting method. And if you've never knitted socks before, there's also some handy videos here on YouTube on how to knit with DPNs and how to knit magic loop method. Those are also linked in your pattern. So make sure you download the Clue 1 PDF. You've got your needles. You need about a US 1 2.25 millimeter DPNs. I'm gonna go down 1 size for mine to make them a little tighter for my socks because I'm a little looser knitter with socks sometimes. So I'm gonna go with these US 0s, but work with the needle size that works for your gauge. So that's the next step. If you haven't done a little gauge swatch, you might wanna try to do that so you can determine your size. There's 5 sizes to choose from for color opportunity socks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you want to try to get about 32 stitches for 4 inches, 10 centimeters. So cast on some stitches and try to get 32 stitches within that 4-inch, 10 centimeter range. And then you're going to have a nice, tidy, firm fabric. So try to get close to 32 stitches, and then that'll help you determine your size between 1 through 5. Sizes 1 and 2 are smaller, and those are based off of the circumference of your foot and of your leg. So base it off of your foot. You can measure the center part of your foot to get your actual foot circumference, and then you want to pick a size that's a little smaller, okay? You want the socks to feel a bit snug and fit tightly with negative ease. You don't want a saggy sock, okay? So you want to pick a size in the pattern. So for example, I'm going to be knitting size 3 for my demonstration during these tutorials. That's 8.5 inches or about 22 centimeters, but my foot is a little bit bigger than that. So if you have a foot that's like 1 inch or 1.5 inches, like 2.5 to 3 or even 4 centimeters, if your foot is like 4 centimeters or 3 centimeters bigger then your chosen size, that's good. So for an 8.5 inch size in the pattern, then you want your foot to actually measure about 9.5 or 10 inches is okay. So pick a size in the pattern that's a little smaller than your actual foot circumference. And if you need help determining that, I also put a link in the pattern on how to find the right size and how to measure your foot. So you could check that out for how to measure your foot, how to find your size, and we're gonna get going. So I'm gonna show you the size 3 with my sock tutorials, but it begins the same for all of the sizes. So the last thing we need to know before casting on is that all sizes are gonna start the same with a cast on of 50 stitches, and we're gonna do a provisional cast on. So I'm gonna show you a provisional cast on with a long tail method. So you could just use any of your contrast colors with your main color. It's just a provisional waste yarn. Just use any waste yarn. It can be any of your contrast colors. I'm gonna show you a provisional with a long tail method, but there's a link in the pattern. If you like to do your provisional cast on method with a crochet hook, you could do that as well. When you do the provisional with a crochet hook, you just zip out the cast on later, but I'm gonna do it with a long tail method. It's a little quicker for me to get going with that, and sometimes you don't have a crochet hook. So I'll show those of you that long tail method, and then cast on provisionally with 50 stitches. Let's go. Color Opportunity Socks leg. We're going to begin by casting on 50 stitches with the main color using a provisional cast on method. I'm gonna show you the long tail provisional cast on. So take any of your contrast colors and your main color. This is my main color. And we're just gonna tie a little loose knot to begin. And then we're going to place the main color is going to be on top and the contrast color is on the bottom. So prepare those yarns in the long tail slingshot position like this with the main color on top, and we're going to cast on 50 stitches. The main color is the color that you want on your needle. And it doesn't matter whether you're knitting with double pointed needles or magic loop with circular needles, or if you're knitting with those crazy trios, any needles work for the leg. Cast on 50 stitches, and for the leg, we're gonna be knitting back and forth. So we're not knitting in the round yet. We'll be going back and forth after you cast on 50 stitches. If you like to do your provisional cast on with a crochet hook, that's another method that is linked in your pattern. So you could also follow that separate video tutorial for those of you that like to crochet cast on your provisional stitches. But this is a long tail method, really quick and easy. Any contrast color will be the color on your thumb, and the main color is the color on your index finger for the long tail cast on. I just cast on 50 stitches with my main color, and you can go ahead and break that waste yarn or break that contrast color from the provisional cast on so that your main color is still attached. Turn around to work next row, wrong side, knit to last stitch. Knit all of your stitches until you reach that final stitch. The first row is always a little tight because you don't have any fabric yet, so just take it really slow, real careful. Get used to your needle size and your tension, knitting every stitch. If I ever feel that a stitch is too tight when I'm knitting, sometimes I'll pull on it like this to make it a little bit looser, and that makes it easier to insert my right needle. Knitting to the last stitch. In this video tutorial for the sock along, I'll try to do a bit of English style and continental style for the techniques to help you out with your knitting method. This is for you English style knitters. So I'll try to do both methods throughout some of the techniques so that you can be sure that you're doing the right thing. But we're starting really easy, knitting to last stitch. When you knit to the last stitch, slip that last stitch with yarn in front. Slip one with yarn in front. Bring the yarn forward and slip the last stitch purlwise. Leg section 1, waves. Row 1, right side. Knit 1, purl to last stitch. Some of these rows in the leg of the sock are going to be really easy. So you'll notice below this video, I included timestamps linked down below that you can click to zoom fast forward through the clue of this sock. So if there's ever any section that's really easy for you, you can click on those links below and skip ahead to the more technical parts. And if you ever want to rewatch something, you can also use those timestamps linked below this video to go back in the video and rewatch these bits as many times as you want so that you can be sure that you're on the right track and confidently knitting ahead. Row 1, purl to last stitch. At the end of row 1, purling to the last stitch, keep the yarn in front and slip the last stitch with yarn in front. Row 2, wrong side, knit to last stitch. This is a really easy row on row 2, wrong side, so keep on knitting, and I'll see you for the next row. At the end of row 2, slip the last stitch with yarn in front. So you were just knitting, so if you have to slip with yarn in front, you need to bring the yarn forward to slip the last stitch purlwise. Pattern repeat, row 3, right side. Knit 1, knit 2 together 4 times. Knitting these 2 stitches together. If it feels a little bit tight, you can pull on the stitches like this to loosen them up, and that will make it easier to knit into both of those stitches. We're going to do that 4 times. So that was once. Here is twice. Yeah, I need to loosen these up. Sometimes your needles might not be as pointy as other needles. So if you loosen the stitches first like this, that's really helpful for any knit 2 or knit 3 togethers. Loosen them up. Knit 2 together 4 times. So we have the first stitch and then 2 together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Knit 1, yarn over 8 times. Knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over. This is 3 times, 4 times. If you hold the yarn in your right hand, you're going to knit 1, yarn over. Knit 1, yarn over. Knit 1, yarn over. So you want to make sure you have 8 yarn overs. We did knit 1, yarn over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Knit 2 together 8 times. Here's the first knit 2 together. There's once and twice. It also helps if you do that knit 2 together with the stitches really close to the needle tip, but you just want to make sure they don't slip off. There's 3 times. Four. Ooh. There we go. And 5. I'm going to do that trick where I loosen the stitches first. And now it's so much easier. And another time. So we had that last yarn over, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 8. The first rows are always going to feel a little bit tighter because we don't have much fabric yet that we're building off of. So have patience during the first rows. It gets easier and easier the more rows you have. After you knit 2 together 8 times, knit 1 yarn over 8 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Knit 1 yarn over 8 times. Now knit 2 together 4 times. Here is the first time. 1 and 2 and 3. Yeah, this helps me as well. If it's hard to get through the stitches, if I pull the fabric down, that also helps loosen the stitches a little bit. So with my fingers here, I pull the fabric down, and that makes the stitches a little more stretched out, so it's easier to knit 2 together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slip 1 with yarn in front. Bring the yarn forward and slip that last stitch. Row 4, wrong side, knit 1, purl to last stitch. Knit 1, purl to the last stitch. Whenever you reach the yarn overs, that's just a regular stitch. You're purling every single stitch. And follow these next rows. They're very, very easy, but pay close attention to the knits and the purls. So follow row 4, and then rows 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. You'll either be knitting or purling to get these nice ridges in the fabric. You'll be doing some stockinette stitch and some reverse stockinette stitch rows. So pay close attention to rows 4 through 10, whether you're knitting or you're purling, and then I'll see you after row 10. Once you complete rows 3 through 10, your right side should look like this. You have the reverse stockinette stitch at the bottom, stockinette stitch, and reverse stockinette stitch. I just finished row 10 wrong side. This is what the wrong side should look like. If yours doesn't look like this, then you might need to restart. Or just keep going, it doesn't matter. As long as you have 10 rows, keep on going. But this is what my textures look like. Reverse stockinette, stockinette stitch, reverse stockinette. Whatever size you're doing, you need to do another row 3. So knit 1, knit 2 together 4 times. Can you go through those 2 stitches? Yes, you can. Knit 2 together 4 times. If you need to loosen them up first, then loosen them up first. And this will be a repeat of row 3. So make sure that you don't get any extra increases or decreases when you're doing the other rows. At the end of each row, you should always have 50 stitches. All right, knit 2 together 4 times, knit 1 yarn over 8 times. This is the same technique as row 3, so if you want to rewind back to row 3, you could watch that row again. I'm going to keep on going, and I'll meet you at the end of leg section 1. This is what the end of leg section 1 looks like for size 3. I have 1, 2, 3 of these reverse stockinette ridges, and 1, 2, 3 of the smooth stockinette stripes. Leg section 2 chevrons. Knit 1, slip, slip, knit. Slip knitwise, knit those 2 together through the back. Knit 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yarn over twice, yarn over once, yarn over twice. If you hold the yarn in your right hand, you're going to go yarn over and yarn over. Knit 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Knit 2 together. Knit those 2 stitches together. Slip, slip, knit. Slip the first stitch knitwise. Slip the second stitch knitwise. Knit those 2 together through the back loop. For the slip, slip, knit. Knit 10. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yarn over twice, knit 10, and then knit 2 together and slip 1 with yarn in front. Bring the yarn forward to slip. Make sure as you slip the stitches and you're working the edge stitches, make sure your edge isn't too tight. If your edge feels really, really tight over there or over here at either edge, then just knit the first stitch a little bit more loosely on the beginning of each row. Row 2, wrong side, knit 12. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Knit 1, purl 1 into double yarn over. That means you'll knit 1 into the first yarn over and purl 1 into the second yarn over. Let me do that one more time for you English style knitters. Knit 1, purl 1 into double yarn over. Knit into the first yarn over and take it off. Purl into the second yarn over. And then take the yarn to the back to knit 22. After you knit 22, knit 1, purl 1 into double yarn over. Knit 11. And then slip the last stitch with yarn in front. Bring the yarn forward to slip that last stitch. Repeat rows 1 and 2 of pattern repeat the number of times it says in the pattern. For size 3, I need to do that 11 more times until I have 12 garter ridges. If you're doing size 1, you're going to repeat those 2 rows 5 more times until you have 6 garter ridges. Size 2, you repeat 8 more times until you have 9 garter ridges. So each 2 rows, rows 1 and 2, equals 1 garter ridge. This little bump here, that is a garter ridge. So keep on following the pattern repeat, and I'll see you for section 3. Here is leg section 2 completed with the garter stitch chevrons. I have 12 garter ridges for size 3. If you're doing size 1, you should have 6 garter ridges up to here. If you're doing size 2, you'll have 8 garter ridges up to here. Size 3, you have 12. Size 4, you have 15 garter ridges. And size 5, you have 18 garter ridges. So make sure you have the right number of repeats for your size. And leg section 3, wavy welts, we're going to use all 3 of our contrast colors, one at a time, for some fun welts in combination with another wavy section, like this. So it's going to look like this, but with some fun welts. So just pick a contrast color 1. It doesn't matter which is which. I'm going to go contrast color 1, and then contrast color 2, and then contrast color 3. If you're using only one contrast color for your entire sock, then just use that contrast color. For row 1, right side, leg section 3. Using contrast color 1, knit all stitches. Just introduce that contrast color 1 and leave a little tail and keep on knitting. These first rows are really easy, so continue following rows 1, 2, and all the way to rows 8. We'll be working 8 rows in stockinette stitch. The difference between these rows is we're not slipping our selvage stitches. So when you get to the last selvage stitch on the right side, knit that stitch instead of slipping it. And same for the wrong side, purl all of the stitches on the wrong side for row 2 and purl that last stitch instead of slipping it. Follow rows 1 and 2 and then repeat rows 1 and 2 3 more times so you have 8 total rows with your first contrast color. Keep on going. I just completed row 8 with contrast color 1 and I have 8 rows. Count your rows, make sure you have 8 stitches in a column and then break contrast color 1, leaving a tail about this long. Your main color should still be attached. If you broke your main color, then just get your main color to knit the next row. Row 9, right side, let's make the welt. So get your main color. Using main color, knit each stitch together with a picked up stitch on the wrong side from 8 rows below to form the welt. So we're going to be looking at the wrong side, and 8 rows below is right here. Right here. Do you see where contrast color 1 interlocks with the main color from 8 rows below? This is where we're going to be picking up a stitch. We'll always be getting the next picked up stitch and knitting it together with a live stitch. And that's going to look like this. For the very first stitch, go 8 rows below on the wrong side with your left needle. And I'm going to pick up this main color edge stitch right there. Do you see that one, that main color stitch that's right next to the contrast color? It doesn't matter, just get any strand of yarn down 8 rows below at the edge. And with the main color, make sure you have the main color, we're going to knit that picked up stitch together with the live stitch. Like this. Now I'm going to keep doing this technique, but in combination with that, I'm going to do the weave in Steven to take care of these contrast color 1 tails. So you could wrap those tails on top of your working yarn. We'll do that for about 10 stitches to weave in ends as we go. Now looking at the wrong side, get the next picked up stitch from 8 rows below. I'm going to start going into each contrast color 1 stitch. So I'm going to get this one, and then the next time I'm going to get this one, and then the next time I'll get this one. So this is the next one. Pick it up with the left needle and knit it together with that next live stitch. And then I'm going to take my broken tails of yarn and cross them on top of my working yarn, like that. Do you see how those tails are on top of my working yarn? This will be weaving in your ends as you knit. So get the next picked up stitch from the wrong side, from 8 rows below. Knit it together with the next stitch. Make sure you get all the strands of your yarn. And I'm going to do the little weave in Steven cross. Where's the next stitch? We just got this one. Do you see how this strand of yarn is attached to that stitch we just knit? This is the next. It's the very first contrast color 1 bump that you see. Knit together and cross those tails of yarn on top of the working yarn. Here's the next bump. Knit the picked up stitch together with the next live stitch. We'll do that weave in Steven, this cross, for about 10 stitches or so, and then that'll be enough. pick up that bump and knit it together. It's going to be a little tricky if this is your very first time doing this technique. It's going to feel weird because you're moving your hands to look at the wrong side. But with practice, it gets more comfy. And look at that, we're already starting to see this beautiful, fun texture, this contrast color opportunity welt. Pick up that next bump. And knit it together. So it really helps to rotate and visualize, looking at the wrong side. Knit it together. Cross the tails on top. And one other way you could do this technique if you want, you could knit into that live stitch first and then pick up the bump with the right needle. I don't do that. That feels a little trickier to me, but for some people they do it like that. That's another way. But my favorite way is getting it with the left needle, getting that next stitch, and then they're both on the left needle. You just knit those two stitches together. One more time. There's the next bump. Knit it together with your next live stitch. You're going to do that all the way until the end of the row. And I'm going to stop doing that crisscross, that weave and Steven now. So you can just let those tails of yarn hang. But you see now, if you do that, how they're whipped into the back. It's like a whip stitch. So I'm just going to drop those tails and keep on working with my main color all the way to the end of the row. And I'll see you there. I'm reaching the end of row 9, picking up my final bumps and knitting them together. This is looking like the last contrast color stitch at the end of my row. So I'm going to get that bump picked up right here and knit it together with my next stitch. I have one more stitch on my left needle, so I'm going to pick up an edge stitch, this main color edge stitch, and that's totally fine. So if yours doesn't look exactly like mine, it's okay to go into the same stitch 2 times, picking up the same stitch, or if you need to skip a stitch, if you're not quite at the end of the row, but you're at your last live stitch, you could just skip ahead and pick up an edge stitch. But you want to have it look like this, a crispy and tidy little welt. And on the wrong side, we're going to knit to the last stitch for row 10, and then slip the last stitch with yarn in front. So knit all of your stitches with your main color on the wrong side, and we'll continue doing some waves for the following rows. I just completed row 12 of section 3. I have my welt, and then you have this reverse stockinette. We'll be doing some waves just like we did previously. Row 13, right side, knit 1, knit 2 together 4 times. I'm going to loosen those stitches so I can easily knit 2 together. This will be the same type of row that we did in the previous increase-decrease row during the last waves section. Knit 2 together 4 times. Three and 4. Knit 1 yarn over 8 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then knit 2 together 8 times. Keep on following row 13, and rows 14, 15, 16, and then after you finish row 16 with your main color, you'll be ready for contrast color 2. We'll do another welt, but we need to do 4 more rows, rows 13 through 16 with the main color. So keep on following those rows closely. We're doing the knit 2 togethers to make more waves. And don't forget to slip your last stitch with yarn in front at the end of each row. This is what your sock should look like after completing row 16 of section 3. We have our reverse stockinette waves and some stockinette stitch. 4 rows of stockinette stitch after row 16. Keep main color attached. We'll use that later. Row 17, using contrast color 2. Use your next contrast color. Knit 1. Knit 2 together 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Knit 1, yarn over 8 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Knit 2 together 8 times. Keep on following these rows 17, 18, 19, and 20. And then you'll be repeating rows 19 and 20 twice more. So basically, we're doing some increases and decreases to make another wave here with the first contrast color 2 row on row 17. And then we'll be doing 7 more rows in stockinette stitch. So basically, we'll be working 8 total rows with contrast color 2, following rows 17 through 24. So follow those rows closely. And remember, with the contrast color, you'll be knitting the last stitch or you'll be purling the last stitch on the wrong side. So no more slipping the edge stitches with your contrast color. Keep on going and I'll see you for the next welt. After you complete row 24, your work should look like this with 8 total contrast color 2 rows. Double check and make sure you have 8 rows with contrast color 2. And then break contrast color 2, leaving a tail. Get the main color that should still be attached to your work. Row 25, using main color, knit each stitch together with a picked up stitch on the wrong side from 8 rows below to form the welt. This is just like the last welt. So for the very first picked up stitch, let's get that first main color selvage stitch that you see and knit it together with your first contrast color stitch. And let's do the weave in Steven again. Get both tails of those contrast color yarns and cross them on top of your main color. And then we're going to pick up the first contrast color stitch that we see and knit it together. So that contrast color stitch from the very first contrast color row, we pick it up and knit it together with the next stitch. And then just like we did before, dive down to get the next contrast color stitch. I'm going to do that weave in Steven cross and knit it together. Pick up the next stitch. Do the weave in Steven cross. Knit that next stitch, the picked up stitch, together with the next stitch. Now as you dive down, I can still see that contrast color stitch, but we're starting to reach the yarn overs from that yarn over row that we did. So once you start reaching, do you see those yarn overs that you did on that first contrast color row? When you reach those, you could just dive in to that first strand that you see above the yarn over space when you reach those yarn over gaps. And that can be the strand that you pick up. And after that one, you can pick up a little contrast color strand in between those. Do you see those two little yarn over holes? Let me spread it apart. Right here and right here. The next one, we could pick up a stitch between those. So there's not an exactly right stitch that you have to pick up. As long as you get something down from 8 rows below, you're going to be just fine forming that welt. I'm going to pick up the next stitch. Here I'm going to get that strand right above that yarn over hole and knit it together with my next stitch. And then for the next one, I'm going to get a strand of yarn between those little yarn over hole spaces. Whoop. Yeah, remember, you don't have to get an exactly perfect stitch. Just keep on going. And every now and then you can check to make sure that your columns, your live stitch columns, when you trace them down, that it's in the location where you need to get a next picked up stitch. You know, you don't want to knit this stitch together with the picked up stitch all the way over there. That's going to make a weird stretch. So make sure that you're getting something always down below that live stitch column each time. And take your time, give it a little practice, and you'll be good to go. At the end of row 25, pick up those final stitches, knitting them together with the next contrast color stitch. And again, when I reach the end of mine, I find that I need to pick up that last main color stitch at the edge and knit it together with my final stitch. But there's no right or wrong. Do whatever works for you. As long as you achieve this welt, then it's okay if you pick up a slightly different strand along that wrong side. So it's going to look a little bumpy as you go, but it's going to smooth out once we knit more plain rows. And we're going to see with that first one, we're already starting to see this exaggerated textured wave. Oh, I just love that color opportunity. And we're going to keep going with row 26. And don't forget to slip your last stitch now. We're knitting to the last stitch on row 26. And follow the instructions closely, and you'll be doing a contrast color 3 welt from rows 33 to rows 40. So follow this section closely, and you'll be getting 1, 2, 3 color opportunity welts. And I'll see you towards the end of this section. This is what Clue 1 looks like after completing section 4, chevrons. I have 12 garter ridges for size 3. Make sure you have the right number of garter ridges for your size. And we're going to bind off, and while we bind off, we're going to attach the cast-on edge with this section 4 chevron edge. So you could wrap this section around the leg of your foot, and it should fit comfortably, nice and snug around the leg of your foot. If you want to do some extra chevrons or fewer chevrons, that's okay. And later you could adjust your picked up stitches. But make sure that when you meet that corner of the cast on edge to your final section 4 chevron, we're going to make a tube, and this should fit around the leg, the ankle of your foot, of your leg. So to begin, we need to place these provisionally cast on stitches onto a DPN or a spare circular needle. So starting at, we're going to start at this location right here where you finished casting on. And we have that little knot from where you started the cast on. So we need to take out that color pop and just carefully pull on the yarn. And then you'll start to see these live stitches emerge. Here's the first one. And place those onto your spare needle. So I'm going to use an extra needle here to help undo. So just carefully zip out, pull out the contrast color strand of yarn. And then as you do that, you'll start to reveal these live stitches. Here's the next one. So pull on that contrast color. It helps if it's a little bit shorter. So I'm going to use my scissors to just cut that tail a little bit shorter as you go. And then just give it a little pull, and then it will start to reveal. See, there's the next live stitch. I placed that onto my spare needle. You can also start to visualize where the next one's going to be. Here's another little loop. So I'm going to stick my needle through that first and then pull out that contrast color. Here's the next one. And then pull out that contrast color. There's the next one. And you could use your needle or your fingers to pull on that contrast color strand. And if you do it before putting the live stitch on your needle, you'll just pull that contrast color. Here we go. And a little live stitch will reveal itself to you. So just slide. I like to put my needle through the stitch first. So here's this next little stitch from the cast on edge. I like to put my needle through that stitch first and then take it out. So just take it step by step, stitch by stitch. If you did the crochet provisional cast on, then that's a nice option because you just zip out that single crochet edge and you can undo that contrast color a bit quicker if you did that crochet version. But this is the long tail version I showed. Insert your spare needle into that stitch and then take out the contrast color. It becomes easier as you take out stitches to make that contrast color a little bit shorter as you go, and then that'll speed things up so you don't have to take out as long of a strand. So keep on going until you have 50 stitches onto your spare needle, all the way to this corner. I just placed my spare circular needle on all of those cast on stitches. You should have 50 total stitches. If you don't quite have 50, you could just pick up an extra little strand from the edge. I had 49 there, so I just got an extra little 50th strand of yarn right there. And then you want to look at your fabric from section 4. So those are still on your live needle. If you're working with magic loop method with a circular needle, you could have your needle tip from the live stitches there, and then the other needle tip, your cord would be over here, and then your other needle tip. Both needle tips are pointing to the right, and then you're going to need a spare needle, a DPN or a spare circular needle, a similar size as your working needles, to bind off using contrast colors 1 and contrast color 2. Look at section 4 in front of you. This will be called the front needle, and then those stitches from that provisional cast on edge are the back needle. We'll call this the back needle. And we're looking at the right side. This is what you should be looking at. The cast on. This was the section you just finished. Using striped I-cord bind off. Using contrast color 1, cast on 3 stitches onto the front needle. I'm going to do my long tail cast on, but you can do any cast on method that you like to get 3 stitches on that needle. You could do a cable cast on. So with contrast color 1, we cast on 3 stitches onto the front needle. Now knit 2, 1 and 2, knit 3 together through the back loop. So have both of the front needle and the back needle, they're next to each other here. We're going to knit 3 together through the back loop. So go through this third contrast color stitch, and then go through that next front needle stitch, and then that next back needle stitch. And we're gonna knit all 3 of these together like that. And then be real careful. We're taking off just those stitches that we knitted through. Slip 3 stitches onto front needle. 1, 2, 3, and repeat that once more. Knit 2, 1, 2, knit 3 together through the back loop. That third contrast color stitch, that next front needle stitch, and the next back needle stitch. 1, 2, 3 together. And then when you take them off, maybe you could place your thumb on these next stitches so that they don't accidentally slide off. There we go. We're going to I-cord bind off while joining the edges together. Slip 3 stitches onto the front needle. Now we're going to repeat from the asterisk twice more with contrast color 2. So we'll be doing a striped I-cord. If this feels like it's already a bit too technical for you, you don't have to do a striped I-cord. You could just continue binding off with contrast color 1 for the entire join. But for that extra special stripey touch, knit 1, knit 2 with contrast color 2, knit 3 together through the back loop. 1, 2, and get that back needle stitch for the third one. There we go. Slide those off, slip the 3 stitches onto the front needle, and repeat. 1, 2, knit 3 together. 1, 2, and 3. Take your time. This is a lot going on. And then when you're done with those 2 rows of contrast color 2, you can just drop that contrast color 2, and we're going to repeat with contrast color 1. So we'll do 2 rows of each color. 1, 2, 1, 2. Time for contrast color 1. Knit 2, knit 3 together. Ooh, I gotta make sure I get all the strands. There we go. Slip the 3 stitches onto the front needle. And as you bind off, make sure it's not too tight, not too loose. You want it to look similar to my stitches. Knit 3 together through the back loop. And slip 3 onto front needle. I just did 2 rows. I can see that recent row on my needle and that first one. So now I can just drop contrast color 1 and bring contrast color 2 up. If you hold the yarn in your right hand, you will be knitting 1, 2, and knit 3 together through the back loop. If you want to be real careful, you could just come through that back stitch first and then come through those other 2 and take them all off. Slip 3 onto left needle. One more time with contrast color 2. Knit 2. Knit 3 together through the back loop. The contrast color stitch, the next main color stitch on the front needle, and then the next back needle stitch through the back loop. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Take those stitches off. Drop that contrast color 2 and bring contrast color 1. There it is. And we need to always slip these 3 stitches onto the front needle. So with contrast color 1, we're ready to knit 1, knit 2, oops, there we go, knit 2, and knit 3 together. 1, 2, 3. And one more time, slip those 3 onto the left needle. Knit 1, knit 2, knit 3 together through the back. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So have patience, give it a try. This is probably the most technical part of the sock. So take it easy, take your time. If this feels a bit too much for you, another option could be just binding off with an I-cord bind off, either a solid color or a striped I-cord bind off. You could bind off only the front needle stitches, and then you could seam, like with a mattress stitch, you could seam the I-cord edge to all of these loops. And you could just do that with a tapestry needle. So you could also sew these loops to your I-cord after you do the I-cord just on the front needle stitches, and only do that if you feel like this is just a little bit too much of juggling. But give it a try, and what you'll get is this beautiful pronounced I-cord striped feature on the outside of the sock. I am reaching the end of my striped I-cord bind off. I'm using contrast color 1 to do the knit 3 together. You should have the same number of main color stitches on the front needle and the back needle. If you don't, then you could just sneak in an extra I-cord bind off stitch on that front needle, or you could knit 2 of those stitches together on the back needle. So you can make it work. It's okay if it's not exactly matching throughout the end of the bind off. But here is that final knit 3 together. And then you can break both tails of yarn, leaving a tail about this long. And then you need to pull the contrast color that you just finished with, contrast color 1, through those 3 I-cord stitches. Or you could do a knit 3 together, like this. Insert through those 3 I-cord stitches, and then a knit 3 together. Just pull that contrast color through and pull it like that. And here is the completed clue 1. This will be the leg of our sock. We have section 1 waves, section 2 chevrons, section 3 those welts with the waves, section 4 chevrons, and the final striped I-cord bind off. So this is going to go on the leg of your foot. If this is the ankle of the foot, you want it to fit onto your leg like that. Go ahead and make an identical version of this for the other sock. The clue 1 for the right and the left sock will be exactly the same. So it's up to you throughout the knit along if you want to knit just one sock throughout the knit along and knit the other sock later, or each week you could knit the right sock and the left sock simultaneously. So this is, it doesn't matter, this is either the right or the left sock, and then go ahead and knit everything just like you did for a second version for clue 1. 2 identical tubes for clue 1. We have a finished clue 1. This is our leg or the ankle of our sock. So go ahead and try it on. If this was my foot, my hand is my foot, this is going to be the leg, the ankle, and it should fit on your foot or on your leg, okay? So make sure it can fit over there. If not, then you might need to take out that bind off and do a couple extra rows. That's okay from section 4. But I love the pops, and we're gonna do 2 of these. So make 2 identical sections. But again, if you just wanna knit one sock during the knit along and you can knit the other sock later, go at your own pace, take your time. But if you wanna knit both socks simultaneously, then we're gonna have 2 identical sections. So this could be the right or the left sock. It doesn't matter yet until next week. And you'll have 2 of these with all these fun pops. And I just love how these custom colors from Walk Collection are working out. I'm working with all of our surprise neon colors from Walk Collection. I just love those little pale flashes of color, and then how the bulb color opportunities pop out with the textures. So share your progress with hashtag SSAL2024, and we can get inspired by each other's projects. You can share them in the Ravelry group as well. That's linked in all of the PDFs. And I can't wait to see what kind of colors are happening and where we're gonna go from this tube. What do you think is gonna happen next? So stay tuned. I can't wait to keep going, and I'll see you in the next clue.